you're lying deep beneath this land, way down, black diamonds to be found. So they sent 1,000,000 men down there with shovels in their hands, looking for black diamonds a mile beneath the ground. And it's way down, black diamonds to be found, down in the darkness, that's where we are bound. It's way down, black diamonds to be found, shining in the lamplight a mile beneath the ground. It brought power to the factories, to the engines and the mills, way down, black diamonds to be found. It said don't forget the power I've got to choke and maim and kill, looking for black diamonds a mile beneath the ground. And it's way down, black diamonds to be found, down in the darkness, that's where we are bound. It's way down, black diamonds to be found, shining in the lamplight a mile beneath the ground. From the coast of County Durham to the hills of South Australia, way down, black diamonds to be found. From the mountains of Kentucky to the hills of Pennsylvania, looking for black diamonds a mile beneath the ground. And it's way down, black diamonds to be found, down in the darkness, that's where we are bound. It's way down, black diamonds to be found, shining in the lamplight a mile beneath the ground. Now for 30 bits of silver, its future has been sold, way down, black diamonds to be found. But they'll be glad of some black diamond when the nights are turning cold, looking for black diamonds a mile beneath the ground. And it's way down, black diamonds to be found, down in the darkness, that's where we are bound. It's way down, black diamonds to be found, shining in the lamplight a mile beneath the ground. Yes, it's way down, black diamonds to be found, down in the darkness, so that's where we are bound. It's way down, black diamonds to be found, shining in the lamplight a mile beneath the ground. Hello again. Thanks for joining us tonight. That was Black Diamonds from a long time ago. That was a song I put together back in about 1981, I think, named after the local pub in my hometown of Easington Colliery in County Durham. The Black Diamond was right in the middle of the town. It is no more. I think it's a block of flats now. And those are the rewritten lyrics. It's not the original lyrics. I rewrote some of the words for that song for when I play with my friends, the Pitman Poets. So that was the 2015 remix version of Black Diamonds. So tonight I just thought I'd sing a few of the songs inspired by the coal mining communities in County Durham, where I come from. Songs that I've put together over the past long time, 40 years. and starting off with that one, Black Diamonds. This is from a few years later. This is from the mid-1980s. It's a song called The Boys of Belly Row, and this it kind of alludes to the prodigious drinking habits of the miners used to have to wash away all that coal dust from their throats at the end of a day's shift. The Boys of Belly Row, it's called, and it's one I did with the Pitman Poets, I think, in later years, but we'll give this a shot. It goes like this. Of Belly Row are on the town tonight, you know. They've spent their whole week working, but now they're done. They've left the dusty dark behind to wear some finer clothes and drink away some dirt and have some fun. They say all week long we've kept a family fair. All week long the muck has been our bread. All week long till Friday we're the boys of Belly Row. Of Belly Row have places where they always go, where talk is hardly cheap, but times their own. They always have a tale or two to tell, or scars to show, or cares to share with them, but carers know. They say all week long the night has been our day. All week long on bank and wagon way. All week long till Friday we're the boys of Belly Row. Belly Row, just watch them come and see them go. The strongest arms can still be easily led, but stronger still the wives with worries. Wives should never know at night when sleep comes struggling to their bed. They say all week long you've worked in back and first. All week long you've earned your weekend first. All week long till Friday you're the boys of Belly Row. They've seen a river foam and flow, where once their fathers sat before, but they drink their fill in fewer glasses than in years ago. Wonder will they drink for many more? They say all week long we crawl on hands and knees. All week long we sweat and then we freeze. All week long till Friday we're the boys of Belly Row. The Boys of Belly Row. And that song alludes to the ending of coal mining in that last verse there. But this song is from a project that I was involved with when the mines were actually closing down. This is the mid 1990s, the early 1990s probably. And the local community, the council at Easington, asked me to put together a project which I called Banners. And it was a CD, really, in a series of concerts that we did. And we invited all the different musicians from the East Durham area, whether they be folk singers, a lot of folk singers who were great, supportive, some rock and roll players, brass bands, local choirs and everything. And it was a kind of a nightmare to put it together. But anyway, the result seemed to be okay. And it was called Banners. And this is one of the songs I did for that. And it was sung on the project by a really fine singer from Durham called Jack Howard. And she did it. It's a song from a woman's point of view. Later on, we did it in the Bag Pennies with Judy Dinning sang it on our live album back in about 2000, I think. And the song's called Weave and Worry, and it refers to the banners themselves. The banners, the colliery banners, the union banners that were paraded around by the union men with the brass bands behind them. They were, I always thought they were like embroidered and stuff, but it was actually, they were painted on. It was paint. So they were quite heavy and they used to sort of get damaged and frayed and stuff. So, and it was the responsibility of some of the women to, in the community, to repair them, as it was their responsibility to look after their men as well. So I kind of put the two things together, and this is called Weave and Worry. We weave and worry, another day's done. One shift closes and the next clocks on. We patch up their clothes and stitch up their wounds and make them ready for tomorrow. A woman's work is never over, no back or first shift for me. I am the mother to his children. I wash his back, no fuss, no free. I wash his back, I heat the water. I am the lover for his bed. I wait for boots upon the doorstep, not knowing if he's live or dead. And we weave and worry, another day is done. One shift closes and the next clocks on. We patch up their clothes and stitch up their wounds and make them ready for tomorrow. Cheer him up in his frustration. He breaks my heart with just a word. I tell him all I have to offer. He mostly acts like he's not heard. I see him young in shirt and collar, and me in silk and calico. Arm in arm we go walking through summer rains of long ago, and we weave and worry, another day is done. One shift closes, the next clock's on. We patch up their clothes and stitch up their wounds and make them ready for tomorrow. Yes, we weave and worry, another day is done. One shift closes and the next clock's on. We patch up their clothes and stitch up their wounds and make them ready for tomorrow. Weaving Wee. And that was, there's a reference in that to the boots on the doorstep. And I think I'm right in saying there was a thing where if a miner was injured at the pit and had to be taken out, his boots would be put on the doorstep of their cottage, the miners' cottages, to sort of tell the neighbours and friends that something was afoot, something was wrong, that there'd been an accident in the pit. So that's the reference there. This is a song which is kind of a ghost song, really. This a ghost story. It's a song called "The Crake in the Morning," and I'm trying to do some of the less well-known songs that I've written about the coal mines tonight, if that's okay. I'll do. I've had one or two requests, so I'll probably stick those in as well. And the crake in the morning. The crake is obviously, it's a bird, a corn crake, with a very distinctive call that these birds used to have, still have in fact. And when industry moved into the northeast of England, the corn crake moved out. But then when industry left and Mother Nature reclaimed it all, the corn crake is back. So now you hear the sound of the crake, the very distinctive sound that it makes on the beach banks and on Beacon Hill and places on the east side of Durham. But the crake is something else. The crake is, or it was, the like a wooden rattle, like a football rattle that you twirl around and makes a hell of a noise. And the crake man used to come round. He was like a town crier. He would come round on a Sunday morning to wake up the miners for their union meeting, which was at lunchtime on the Sunday. So it was the one day of the week that the miners had off work. And this fella used to come round at the crack of dawn, up and down the streets of the terraced houses, waking the guys up, trying to get them to go to work, to go to the union meeting. I remember this happening. I remember the man as well. He was called, in where I was growing up, the crate man was called Mr. Rice, and he had a hell of a voice on him as well. So in this song, the sound of the crake, the bird, evokes the ghostly sound of the crake man, from the days when the miners would be going to the union meeting. So this is the crake in the morning. Of a rattle had me up with the lark this morning, sudden as a thunderclap from hell. It could have been a dream I had, it could have been I'm going mad, but perhaps you've heard it as well. An echo, a spectre over ages gone by, it flew up and down empty Sunday streets, the rasping of the morning crake, the whole world and his wife to wake from a time with easier sheets. Still the sound of the rattling crake in the morning. Still the sound of the rattling crake in the morning. I held on my breath to hear the next that I knew would come the throttle of a voice with these words: a meeting will be held for all this morning in the miners' hall. If you've a tongue in your head, you'll be heard. And the rattle kept turning, getting louder and louder, and I clapped my hands hard on my ears. It clattered back a memory of Sunday morning used to be, till it took to the sky and disappeared. Still the sound of the rattling crake in the morning. Still the sound of the rattling crake and peeped out on the street below, slapped by the sight that I saw. Men dressed in their Sunday best to start their hard-earned day of rest by answering the Craig's morning call. And even as I was wishing them on their way, I saw them fade at each step they would take, as fade away they did, I know, now many, many moons ago, like the song of the crack of the Craig. Still the sound of the rattling Craig in the morning. Still the sound of the rattling Craig in the morning. Still the sound of the rattling Craig in the morning. It's the Craig in the morning. I mentioned the Banners project, and this is another song that was written for the same project, and it's a song called Big Meeting Day. And the Durham Big Meeting, Durham Miners Gala, it used to be called, or Gala, depending on which part of Durham you come from. The Durham Miners Gala, the big meeting, was like the biggest event of the year for the County Durham miners. And again, I remember going when I was a kid with my parents, and there would be thousands and thousands of people, and the union banners that I was talking about, and the colliery bands would march through the streets of Durham, and there'd be politicians and stuff with speeches, and the big thing for when we were kids with the fairground, the carnival, the shows we call it. It's referenced in the song. We call it the shows. And the other big thing certainly for my dad was the vegetable competition. Who can grow the biggest and whitest leek? We certainly knew how to enjoy ourselves back then in County Durham. And the big meeting day still happens every July. I hope it didn't happen last year. Hopefully something will happen this year. Who knows? But it's become one of the biggest events of its kind. It's now just like a union and kind of lefty kind of gathering. It's fantastic. It's a real kind of community thing. It's great. But this is my memory of how it was back in the day. I hope I can remember this one. There's a lot of words to this one. This is Big Meeting Day. Came round, we knew we'd have to beat the crowd. We set off bright and early, feeling happy, pleased and proud. The day was ours to kill, the golden sun was shining down. We found a parking place in Sherburn Hill and walked back into town. We walked along to Giles Gate, wondering where to venture first. And while we were a-pondering that, we thought we'd quench our thirst. The pubs were full, and so we bought a crate from off a van. It was much too heavy to carry, so we drank it there and then. We let our hair down, with conscience good and clear. We let our hair down, it's only once a year. The market square, it was crowded fit to bust. We saw the colliery bands go marching past, but only just. The woman next to me, she said, I'm really over the moon. That's me husband on the trumpet, he's the only bugger in tune. Then a man in uniform stood with a pint glass in his hand. He looked alone, and so I said, I hope you can find your band. He seemed to take offence and put his glass upon the bar. He said, I'm a traffic warden and I hope I can find your car. He let his hair down, with conscience good and clear. He let his hair down, it's only once a year. down Silver Street I spied a friendly face, and though it seemed familiar, it was one I couldn't place. He made his way towards me as I tried so hard to think. It clicked when he said, "Come on now, son, buy your dad a drink." Then a bus slowed up from Berkeley, they were out to have a hoot, and to keep their driver sober they'd locked him in the boot. Before too long they'd all forgotten where they'd left the bus. When the rest have gone, they said the one that's left will be for us. They let their hair down, with conscience couldn't clear. They let their hair down, it's only once a year. Company knew the way to the racecourse, till someone spied across the crowd a jockey on a horse. It was just a mounted policeman, but we still kept on his trail. Me leaks would win some prizes if I'd only brought a pail. Then we slept all through the speeches and we headed for the shows. But you shouldn't go on the waltzer if you've brought no change of clothes. Then the crowds began to head for home, their banners rolled and furled, and the sun lit the cathedral at the centre of the world. We let our hair down, with conscience couldn't clear. We let our hair down, it's only once a year. Durham, such a sight you never saw. Crowds and beer and chips and cheer and banners by the score. Famous politicians perched upon the balcony as the whole of County Durham went a marching on a spree, and let their hair down, with conscience couldn't clear. They let their hair down, it's only once a year, so let your hair down. Conscience couldn't clear, well, let your hair down, it's only once a year. Durham Big Meeting song there. Yeah, that was from the mid-1990s, I think, that one. And I'll go back to this one, which is a sort of a one of those songs that I've done over the years. I kind of find myself some characters, and then I imagine what their story is, and that's kind of what I do when because I'm starting to write these novels, which I've done. A couple of them have been published so far, and then there's another one on its way when things calm down a bit, and it's just like imagining somebody's story when you feel that they're worth a story. There's a story there to be told, and even if it's not the right one, then it's still worthwhile telling for the sake of the people themselves. And this is a song called The Galloway Lad. And the Galloways are the pit ponies, and there used to be a little cottage just on the outskirts of the mining village when I was growing up, and there was an old woman that lived in there, and she was a very scary old woman, and nobody really, certainly that generation that I came through, none of us really knew her story, who she was or anything, or why she was living there. And the pit ponies used to be in the field round the back, because it was quite near the pit. So round the back of her cottage there were the pit ponies in the field. So this is my kind of story about what her story was. And it references a place called Petwell Lonnon. Lonnon is a lane in the northeast of England, and it's just a lonely country road, which is still there to this day, and the cottage is still there, but now it's some kind of flash, sort of big house now. It's been developed. But I'll give this a shot. This is it's always been a favourite song of mine. I call it the Galway Lad. The pet will burn is not so deep. I've never seen it run to rise. They say it came from tears of grief that fell from out a woman's eyes, when frosty fires are red as roses and talk is to the bygone days. Some still speak of her long ago, or wrapped up in her young girl's ways. In Petwell, London, where she sat, a Galway lad came strolling by. He raised a ragged, dusty hat. He winked a black and rolling eye. And soon she held that very hand that led the Galloways along, despite her father's strict command to never court a miner's son. And from a gleaming silver bowl she brought him sugar broken white, beneath the trees so fine and tall, the fallen apples of the night. She learned to call the ponies names while lying in her silk white bed. To her it was a young girl's game, to him it was his daily bread. Each evening in the setting sun, he told her how he dreamed of days when dark and danger would be done, a freedom for his Galloways. And if the tale in time is true, and Petwell Burn tastes salt and bad, it's tears of sorrow that she knew on losing her poor Galway lad. Galway Lad. And when I did that song, I did another two. It was like one of my early concept albums, that one. And so I did another two songs about the Galloways, one of which I lost. I don't know what happened to it. It's somewhere lying about. But the other one I did actually record and sing a lot. So I might do that one before the end of tonight, if it's all right. But that was the Galway Lad. Song on the mandolin now, and this is from much later. We did this one on an album with the Bad Pennies called Honesty Box, one of my favourites of all the CDs that I've done, actually, the Honesty Box. And this is a song called The Ballad of Tasker Jack, and Tasker Jack was in the song anyway. He's the strongest man in the coal mine, and not just the coal mines, but everywhere. I think every sort of working place has characters who stand out more than anybody else. And in the pit, it was the man called the Big Hewer. Ewan McCall did a whole suite of things, a radio ballad called the Big Hewer. To hew the coal, as I'm sure you know more than I do, is to dig away the coal to get it out of the steam and stuff, the coal hewers. and the big ewer is the strongest man of the pit. He can carry more, he can dig out more than anybody else. And in this song, he's called Tasker Jack. So this is the ballad of Tasker Jack. Wasn't he a mighty big man now? Wasn't he a mighty big man? We'll never see his like again. No, he's worked all he can. Now he's done. And it's what happens when Tasker Jack gets the chance to face his nemesis, who is the overman at the pit, who's treated him badly. It's all totally fiction, this. The names have been changed to protect me. So this is the Ballad of Tasker Jack. Old man to his memory, drinking to the dregs. Tasker Jack, that mighty man, is on his last mighty legs. They say he must be 70, some say 76, but to you and me he'll always be a mountain in our midst. Oh, wasn't he a mighty big man now? Oh, wasn't he a mighty big man? We'll never see his like again. No, he's worked all he can, but now he's done. He must have been a baby, he must have been alive, but some believe the pick and shovel were his mom and his dad. They sing about the big ewer with a ton across his back, but when they do to me and you, they sing of Tasker Jack. 'Cause wasn't he a mighty big man now? Oh, wasn't he a mighty big man? We'll never see his like again. No, he's worked all he can, but now he's done. An overman called Bradley, pig ignorant and uncouth, he overworked and abused his men with a curse across his mouth. For 50 years he taunted Jack, he called him thick and slow. Why Jack never smacked him there and then, we'll never know. 'Cause wasn't he a mighty big man now? Wasn't he a mighty big man? We'll never see his like again. No, he's worked all he can, but now he's done. Coal no longer needed, and all that strength to spare, everyone told Bradley then, Tasker Jack beware. But Bradley did not heed them, Bradley only laughed. He was last seen living on the night before they capped that old pit shaft. No one ever looked for him, no one seemed to care. They thought of asking Tasker Jack, but no one seemed to dare. 'Cause wasn't he a mighty big man now? Wasn't he a mighty big man? We'll never see his like again. No, he worked all he can, now he's done. Alaska Jack. I'll try this one, which is a song I don't sing that often, to be honest. But and it's from one of the more recent albums. It's still quite a while, actually. I think this was on an album I did called. I think this was on Jack Common's Anthem. Was the name of the album, which I did with my good friends Show of Hands down in Devon there. We recorded it down there, produced by Steve Knightley and recorded by Phil Beer. Quite an experience, all in all. And this is one of the songs from there. And this harks back to something which I kind of picked up on when I got a bit older, still living in the mining village. And again, when the pits were still on the go, was that that back in the Second World War, a lot of the men in town had actually worked in the pit. They were either Bevan boys or it was reserved occupation. So they didn't go and fight in the forces for the Second World War, because their job, and a worthwhile job too, was that they were working on the coal to keep the whole thing going, But then in later years there was sort of kind of a bit of a division. There were the men who had been in the Army and the Navy and the Air Force and done all that, and then there was the men who had been at home, and it was a kind of an unspoken division in many ways, and that's what this song kind of harks back to. And this song took me ages and ages to get right. I daren't tell you how long it took me to write this song, and it's called The Sea and the Deep Blue Devil. Shadow and me mother, she sang from her kitchen. Washing day weary, a pot of 3 peas. She said you stuck fast together like stitching. Teresa, Delaney and me, all dressed in Friday night finery. Ah, but you dressed for the war at sea like a deep blue devil. When our country it called, you got a fine uniform, deck drill, sea legs and salutes. But for me spared the danger of convoys and storms. There was pit lamp, pit helmet and boots. A roll of honour was never to be for black Bevan boys such as me. Oh, the seams were no match for the sea and the deep blue devil. And Teresa Delaney, she wrote you a letter with a pen that I'd stolen to give her. And those ink spots, they told me she loved you the better, and your bell-bottom bravery would have her. And when the world finally fought itself free, I was as glad you had survived it as she. But wounded pride drove me far from the sea and the deep blue devil. Echo, a shadow, a tune someone whistles, and a face springs before me yet. Why should it be that she's stuck like a thistle to a behind with so much to forget. Now from life's stormy waters she's free, and you've lost what was never meant for me. I've come back to make peace with the sea and the deep blue devil. The sea and the deep blue devil. This is a one. I had one or two requests which I'm going to try and slip in. We can see it's getting on time-wise, and something a bit lighter after that last one actually. This is a song called the Ex-Pitman's Potholing Pub Quiz Team, and dedicated to some of my friends up there up in County Durham who are still pub quiz aficionados, probably online aficionados at this point, but so I'll give this a short one. Again, a lot of words. Hope I remember this one. It's another song I usually do with my friends the Pitman Poets, and speaking of the Pitman Poets, we're hoping to do another tour next, probably to end of summer 2022. So if you're interested in that, anybody out there, drop me a line. See the Pitman Poets out on the road again at some point. This is the Ex-Pitman's Potholing Pub Quiz Team. The Ex-Pitman's Potholing Pub Quiz Team's riding tonight. 5 grey-haired desperados all out for a fight. With matching green sweaters, they know all their subjects by heart. Now they sit with their shandies and wait for the shooting to start. Stanley is sport, Mickey is music, Harry is history, Peter politics, all subjects covered. I tell you man, these lads are good. With Kenny the captain to keep them in line, 'cause he was a deputy down the mine. Oh, the Ex-Pitman's Potholing Pub Quiz Team's baying for blood. Yippee-i-oh, yippee-i-ay. I pity the man with the answers that stands in their way. Yippee-i-ay, yippee-i-oh. Ask any question you like, I bet you they'll know. They scoff at the dates and kick sand in the face of the names. They swagger past football and cricket like so many kids' games. 'Cause they've got the facts and the figures in the palm of their hand. They've earned their spurs as the fastest quiz team in the land. Well, you might sense a stumble at pop since the 90s, or atomic numbers, or African countries, but they claw their way back with a flourish of substance and style. When they're asked who killed Trotsky, or who scored for Preston, or former members of Fairport Convention, and the Ex-Pitman's Potholing Pub Quiz Team sits back and smiles. Yippee-i-oh, yippee-i-ay. I pity the man with the answers that stands in their way. Yippee-i-ay, yippee-i-oh. Ask any question you like, I bet you they know. When quiz season closes for summer, our heroes are brave. They head for the hills and hide out in the cabins and caves. They put on their pit lamps and helmets, it's just like old times. And they search for their youth that they lost way down there in the mines. like they lost their jobs to big chiefs and bosses, and lost their allotments to big city bypasses. Their life left to fill or to kill, they had to decide. And who would have thought that now 40 years after, there's learning and seeking, living and laughter, when the ex-pitman's potholing Putkus team gets in their stride. The ex-pitman's potholing Putkus team's riding tonight. Yippee-yi-oh, yippee-yi-yay. I pity the man with the answers that stands in their way. Yippee-yi-yay, yippee-yi-oh. Ask any question you like, I'll bet you they'll know. There you go. I mentioned the Galloways song, which I'm going to try and do now. The Pit Ponies. And this song kind of comes from a time when there was a mining village, not where I live, but just along the coast a little bit. And when the mine closed down, the place became quite kind of deserted very quickly. And all the houses were left standing for quite a good while. And the pit ponies were brought up from the mine, and they just kind of wandered around the place. It was a very kind of spooky place, this deserted mine village, with all these big strong horses. Actually, they weren't, they were quite stocky little things. But the thing was that the pit ponies, a lot of them had been in the dark for so long that when they brought them up into the light, some of them were blind. So it was blind pit ponies wandering about the place. And my uncle John actually was in charge of the pit ponies at Horden Pit back in the 1950s and 60s. And sadly he passed away before I got a chance to ask him about his work, and he never got to hear this song that I did. God knows what he would have thought of it. So this is Galloway's. The sun is still blazing, on blind eyes a gazing, on Galloway's grazing all day. Where Galloway's grazing the sun, grazing and standing, you won't see them gamble and run. You won't see their heads turn around when you're walking away. But the sun is still blazing, and blind eyes are gazing, and Galloway's grazing all day. Fine shadow from pulley wheels black in the sky, but the streets seem so narrow where once they were gaping and wide. There's never no children where children always would play, but the sun is still blazing, on blind eyes are gazing, on Galloway's grazing all day. Memories, but it doesn't seem so long to me. But the yard seems so empty, like broken hearts for all to see. All the ragged red walls are bent and breaking away, but the sun is still blazing, on blind eyes are gazing, on Galloway's grazing all day. shed a warm winter's light, where a gusty old wind blows around corner ends in the night. Its howl goes unheeded, the weeds let it mourn what it may, but the sun is still blazing, on blind eyes a-gazing, on Galloway's grazing all day. All that was and was made, it is gone, but it's hard to forget, 'cause they've left it all naked and standing like stones of regret. So tear it all down, put an end to its death and decay, but the sun is still blazing, on blind eyes a-gazing, on Galloway's grazing all day. Galloway's from back in 1985, long time ago that one. I've got time for just one more song, and sorry that I haven't done a couple of the things that people have asked me to do, but they were all songs that I've done in previous concerts here. Now I think next month, the end of next month, I'll probably do another one of these gigs. Not sure what I'll do. But thanks for listening tonight. And yes, take care of yourselves and stay safe and everything. If you're interested, I've started this thing called Patreon, which is a sort of like a special website where I'll be doing concerts like this and workshops and putting rare songs and things on it. If you have a look at my website, you can jezlowe.com. You'll see details of the Patreon thing that I'm doing, and it's going to be a lot of stuff about songwriting and about the writing of my books as well as guitar tunings and stuff like that, and just to kind of to get to reach people who certainly people around the country, around the UK, and especially overseas as well, who I won't get a chance to see when the touring situation. We're hoping to be out later on in the year in limited gigs in the UK. But, if you're interested in the Patreon thing, check out my website, and there's all sorts of CDs and stuff. This is from my latest CD, which is called Crazy Pagan, and this is a song called Coal Mountain, and it's kind of a song looking at the reality of what coal mining is today. You know, it's the coal was a way of life, and certainly when I was growing up, it was everything. But in terms of pollution and in terms of the conditions that the men were working in, it was less than ideal, shall we say. And this is a sort of because in fact none of the songs I've done and really celebrates the coal so much as the communities themselves. That's what I really thought was special, and that's what I think was really badly treated when the coal mines were closed down. It was the people that mattered rather than the coal. And anyway, this is from the latest CD, Crazy Pagan. This is Coal Mountain. Thanks very much for listening, and it's gone a bit over time, but I'll finish off with this one. It goes like this. I swear I heard Coal Mountain say, "Begone your miners, you've had your day. My coal black heart, you ripped and tore. Now no one wants that anymore." I said it's true, those days are done, but I see battles yet to be won. I'll point white finger, I'll fill black lung. As long as there's a song still to be sung. Come all you brave and you bold, read what is scraped in dust across my soul. And raise up your voices in the songs of the cold. The mountain shook his mighty head. There is no sense in what you've said. Gone is the meaning, past are those days. This world we know now has different ways. I said, and yet the work is still toil for the rich man, his plate to fill. Their voices echo across this land. They all need songs with good strong hands. Come all you brave and you bold, read what is scraped in dust across my soul. Then raise up your voices in the songs of the cold. The mountain roared a fearsome sound, but in its shadow we stood our ground. The songs we sang, the whole world heard, took heed, took strength from simple words. New generations, how can they know what they hold certain will fade and go? This was our lifetime, cast in our rain. Now songs are all that remain. Come all you brave and you bold, read what is scraped in dust across my soul. And raise up your voices in the songs of the cold. Come all you brave and you bold, read what is scraped in dust across my soul. Then raise up your voices in the songs of the cold. Thanks very much. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Take care.